Welcome to KQEG and Seven Rivers Sports. I'm your host, Terry Erickson. Each week, an inside look into sports, wellness, and fitness. Well, this week, we're catching up with former Logan High School student athlete, star athlete for the Rangers, and a All-American track and field athlete with the UW-La Eagles. And his name, Andrew Jarrett. Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Thank you for having me.
The last time you were on, a few years ago, you were on with a friend of mine, Tori Washa.
Yes.
Talked about you were just a freshman at UW-La, and you two, both of you student athletes at Logan, and you were talking about the transition. So let's begin by just kind of reflecting a little bit back to your high school days.
Well, high school, I didn't even start as a thrower until my junior year. My coaches were the one who convinced me, and I hit the weight room really hard, and I ended up falling in love with it right away. So, and then it carried on into college.
So actually, you were not an exceptional track and field athlete in high school. You were just kind of getting into the sport. And you would admit that, and your coaches even said, that guy's got so much potential, but it's just starting to come alive. Did you actually think that you would be able to become an elite UW-La track and field athlete?
Looking back on it, I don't know if I should have, but I absolutely did, because I just had a really strong love for track and field, and so I plunged head first into it.
But you were a multiple sport athlete at Logan.
I was, yeah. I was in soccer in the fall, every fall, and then for a while I was a jumper and a quarter miler, and then by junior and senior year I was a thrower. So I was very average at all of those things.
Well, I used to see you around Logan. I know you had a lot of friends. You were very popular. It seems like your high school years were certainly a pleasant experience. And the teachers, the coaches saw a lot of promise in you. And I'm sure that was an inspiration for you to attend UW-La.
Oh, it was. It was my throwing coaches, Coach Harney, Coach Anderson, and then the head track and field coach at Logan, Coach Hackbarth. They were the ones who recommended UW-La and recommend that I continue my athletic career. So I got in touch with the coach there, and then look what happened. And
they saw something in you, and so did Coach Buck and the coaches at UW-La. Well, our guest today, Andrew Jarrett, UW-La All-American track and field athlete. This is a difficult time for all of us. You have had some setbacks. We're going to talk about the setback that prevented you from becoming an All-American in the indoor. But before we do that, this is a challenging time. You're set to graduate. So since March, everything has been online. And has that been a difficult transition?
Not entirely for me. Some of my classes were online, but for some of the other classes, and especially for some of the other students and the other teachers, I know it's been a very difficult transition for them. But I think we're doing the best we can. We're managing.
So looking for, as we tape the show, you graduate on Friday, 2 days from now.
Correct.
And it's a virtual graduation, perhaps the graduation will actually occur in late July, is what the tentative plans are. But how do you feel about that? And you come from you come from a large family, mom, dad, and five other siblings. Six other siblings.
Yes.
And so I'm sure they have been looking forward to attending your graduation too.
They were. They're very proud of me, God bless them, for doing all this stuff in high school and graduating college. And they were looking forward to going to the graduation ceremony. So hopefully that's something that will happen in the future.
As I see your family around the community, around school, in church, you have a very special family, very close, very spiritually very deep. You are all, you root for one another, you're tight-knit. That's a special part of who you are, Andrew.
I'm very blessed to have them. They're very supportive of me. I'm very supportive of them. I wouldn't trade for any other family in the world. It's amazing.
So they came to a lot of your meets and stuff too, both in high school and college, and they've been very supportive, as you said. Very proud of you. We talked about the challenge now of college and everything being online. You had a lot of success. 3-time All-American. One of the setbacks and one of the disappointing things was you'd won the conference, which, by the way, was a story in itself, because the very first day you were way behind as you put your head on a pillow, you're thinking what's going to happen the next day, and a miracle occurred. Talk about that.
Yeah, well, obviously after the first day we were down by, I think, a good 40 points, a little under 40 points, and a lot of us weren't feeling too confident about the next day, but the coaches sat us down. They had a meeting with us. They were like, listen, you got it. It's in here. All you got to do is put it all out on the track. And that's what we did. And it worked out in the end. It was an amazing story.
But UW-La perennial champs in the WIAC, gone to the regionals, nationals more times than probably any other Division III school in this country. But things did not look good. And as you got together with a team meeting and you talked to those particular athletes and their events that were set to shine on day 2, took you to the promised land.
Yeah. You know, me and Justin, another weight thrower, we scored a good chunk of points. The day started off with the jumpers. They really set the tone for the rest of the meet. And then the 3K, they scored a really good chunk of points there towards the end. And they weren't supposed to score. And so they hit it home for us.
Yeah, and it was a miraculous win, and I talked to your coaches, and they couldn't believe it either, how everyone rallied to the cause and supported one another. So you win the conference, and then you're set to compete in the nationals. And so initially the ruling was no, and then with a tremendous amount of drama and support and so on, it was changed. But take us through that whole scenario.
Sure. Well, it was 10 o'clock the night we were before we were supposed to travel, and we get a text from the coaches, hey, we have an emergency meeting. So we get to the emergency meeting, and it turns out that because of the current COVID-19 crisis, the school administration decided to cancel all non-essential travel, which included athletics. And so obviously we were very upset by that. And up until that point, we didn't know that that was even being considered. And so we rallied a bunch of people the next day and voiced our opinions and concerns to the school administration.
But they were not really receptive to that, though, because initially their mind was made up.
Correct, yeah. Initially, they sent out a media representative to talk to us. They didn't talk to us themselves. And they eventually sat down with our coaches, but it took a while. It took a good half of the day for them to actually sit down and talk with us.
And a lot of people in the athletic department, and particularly in track and field and so on, were highly upset about that.
They were, yeah. And I understand where the school administration was coming from. You know, they wanted to keep everyone safe. They wanted to be ahead of the curve, you know, in regards to other schools. But the way that they handled it from the athletes' perspective, and then also from the athletic department's perspective, was poor. We weren't let know until, you know, the night before we were supposed to travel. You know, we weren't part of the process in terms of the decision making, and so we felt a little bit left out.
Well, and their heart was in the right place, but the procedure and the timing and so on probably was not the best.
Yes, I would definitely agree with that.
So to continue the scenario, so then you were allowed to go.
Yes, they reversed the decision after long talks with our athletic directors and our coaches. God bless them. They made some really good points. They were like, listen, people are going on spring break after this, and they're going to come back to UWL, so why cancel our trips? And also, no other school in the WIAC was canceling the national trip for their athletes. So they made some good points, and they eventually reversed their decision once after talking to our coaches.
Okay, so you make the trip.
Yes.
The story continues.
Yes. So we get there, right? We're just happy to be there, you know.
There being?
In North Carolina.
North Carolina, right.
North Carolina at the national facility. It's a great facility. So we get there. We have a fire in our hearts. We're ready to compete. We're ready to go. We actually practice in the facility, and my teammate, he had the pre-meet of his life. But me and him, we were set to go. The rest of the team was set to go. And then we're in the hotel room, just chilling afterwards, and we watch the news, and we find that the NCAA canceled all winter and spring national championships, which was a disappointment for us.
So, collectively, you were disappointed, but
right.
Let's relive that a little bit. How you guys handled that?
Yeah, well, a lot of people. It was quite the mood swing. You know, people were taking it a bit hard in the moment. I actually had one teammate who he didn't make it originally. He placed 21st. You need to place 20th to qualify. Then he scratched in. Then the school administration canceled it. Then they let us go. So now he was going to nationals after previously not have been going, and the nationals got canceled. So it was an emotional roller coaster for a lot of us.
So after you collected yourself, back and travel back to La Crosse.
Yes. Yeah.
The next day, that must have been difficult.
That was difficult. All of us were exhausted, and emotions were just raw, you know. And I think the coaches were the ones who felt it the most, because they put a lot of hard work into our seasons, and to see us in that situation, feeling that pain, it was just gut-wrenching for them.
Well, there's been a lot of talk about, and there's been some NCAA rulings about giving another year of eligibility to seniors.
Yeah.
And that is that the case at UW-La?
I'm not sure. I know that people will be getting their outdoor seasons back, but in terms of their indoor seasons, I don't think they'll be getting those back.
How many athletes will be taking advantage of that window of the outdoor season?
At UW-La, I know a good portion are. I personally won't be, because I'm moving on to a career once I graduate. But I know a good portion of the athletes at UW-La are taking advantage of that last season. You know, they want to go out with one final bang, you know.
Yeah. And there's still a lot to prove, and I'm sure those athletes want to make a statement, and they can do that in an extra year. Well, we're going to step aside just for a minute. When we come back, more here on Seven Rivers Sports with Andrew Jarrett. We'll be right back.
With our busy lives, it's a comfort to know that we can still remember loved ones in a traditional way with a monument. Lewiston Monuments in Lewiston, Minnesota has been helping families purchase a monument for over 4 generations. You'll find a large selection of beautiful granite, marble, and bronze monuments, all at competitive prices. And they're a full-service company, so they also do straightening, cleaning, and repair of monuments. Stop in or call for a no-obligation consultation, or visit lewistonmonument.com for more information.
You know, the thing I'm most proud of when I think about our company is the reputation that we've been able to build in this community. Our technicians have done a great job going out and performing magnificent jobs for the customer. And our customers have rewarded us with some really great reviews online.
We have over 150 5-star reviews online right now. Our technicians do a great job out there, and our reviews show it.
We can say without hesitation, when you choose Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning, you'll be glad you did.
Welcome back to Seven Rivers Sports. Again, our guest today is Andrew Jarrett, former Logan student athlete, and graduating in 2 days, an All-American track and field athlete with UW-La Eagles. Hey, I had a chance to talk to a couple of your college coaches in the last week or so, and your throws coach, Phil White, said this: Andrew has a passion for throwing. He came to practice every single day with a drive to be the very best. Every throw was 100%. It was a privilege to coach someone of his ability. Thoughts?
It was a privilege to have him as a coach. You know, he's one of the best coaches, if not the best coach, for throwing in Division III, I would argue. And he taught me everything I know, and he pushed me, and he pushed the other throwers really hard. So Philip Whiteside was a great, phenomenal man, phenomenal coach.
Coach Josh Buchholz, who's a good friend of mine, says this: Andrew was an okay athlete in high school, which we talked about. Sometimes you just You have a new event, a new environment, a new opportunity, and take advantage of it. And Andrew did just that. He rewrote the record books in the weight throw by breaking the UW-La's longstanding school record. He did damage in the Division III all-time tops marks list and holds 8 of the 10, 8 of the 15 throws ever thrown record in D3 history. Besides being a great student athlete, is a quality human being, says Josh Buchholz. I don't think there was a time I didn't see him smiling, being excited, and for anything that came his way. We will miss him greatly, along with the other seniors. Head coach Josh Buchholz.
Yeah, Coach Buchholz is a great leader, and he's a wonderful fit for the track team. One thing that Coach Buchholz and Coach Phil saw in me is potential. You know, UW-L has a rich history of taking athletes that they're okay, and then building them up to be something great. And I think Coach Buchholz and Coach Phil are phenomenal examples of coaches who do that for their athletes.
You set all kinds of records that may stand a long time, and you feel you've accomplished a great deal, but yet there's still a void in your heart because you weren't able to get to the very top in the indoor and in the outdoor. Are you handling that okay?
Yeah, I'm handling it okay, you know. Moving on to bigger and better things in my life, and I really thank track and field for the man it created in me, the man that I am today, the experiences that I have with the friends that I've developed on that team. That's the best thing that could have came of track and field, and it was a wonderful experience.
Okay, let's distinguish the man you used to be in high school, and the man you are now. What is the distinction?
Well, the man that I am today is very hardworking, very dedicated, you know, and when I came here from high school into college, you know, I think I was thinking everything would just come together, but once I got onto the track team and saw the mentality of hard work that everyone had, the drive to be the best, that drive has been with me ever since, and I think it'll stick with me for the rest of my life.
And that drive possibly was because of who you surrounded yourself with, your teammates. They're the ones that lifted you. And of course, your calling and my calling in this world is to lift other people up. And as you move into the next chapter of your life, which is hopefully in law enforcement, your calling then is to lift people up. How will you do that?
Well, basically by protecting and serving the community that I've grown up in, the community that I love. Supporting my community members is one of the primary functions of law enforcement, and so I hope to accomplish that when I become a police officer.
Last time you were on the show, I asked you what your favorite opponent was, and you perhaps don't remember this, but you said something to the fact that I've met the enemy, and the enemy is me. In other words, you are hard on yourself. This time you said, besides that, you said one of your favorite opponents is a guy that I know a little bit, Eric Holst, who's from St. Thomas. And originally from Lanesboro. So you have 2 opponents, yourself, and let's start with that, and then Eric Holst.
Well, myself, obviously, I'm very hard on myself, you know, as you know. Eric Holst he kind of came out of nowhere. You know, he was a pretty average weight and hammer thrower, but then his junior and senior year, he just blossomed, and he was a real challenge, you know, and he kept me humble because it was at this point I was starting to get up there, and he needed to be humbled a little bit, and so he helped me do that. But other than that, he's an amazing guy. He's super fun to talk to.
You know, a lot of athletes are good in mechanics and techniques, and they have the physique and so on, but a lot of them crumble with the mental approach to the game. The mental is to the physical as 4 is to 1, meaning 4 times more important. How do you get yourself mentally ready for practice and for competition?
Well, I kind of have this zone that I put myself in, and sometimes if I don't find that zone, I don't succeed at that particular meet or that particular competition. But it's really hard to describe. I just mentally focus, and Philip Whitesett, he emphasized that as well. One of the things he emphasized was being mentally ready and mentally fit was extremely important into being a very good athlete, and so I think he did a wonderful job coaching that.
You talked about your coaches in high school and college and so on. Who else has inspired you over the years? Who are some of your role models?
My parents. My parents are some of my biggest role models. You know, my mother was a track athlete at UW-La, and she was an All-American. So I saw her trophies from a very young age, and I think that rubbed off on me. You know, I wanted to do something like that. My father's a very hard-working man, and he's given up a lot in order to provide for us. So is my mom. She's very hardworking, and she's given up a lot as well. And then, as I said before, my coaches, and then the rest of my teammates. You know, the people I surrounded with were really role models for who I want to be.
First half of the show, we talked a little bit about the depth of your spirituality, and your philosophy of life kind of ties in with that.
Yeah. All things through Him is one of the mottos I like to live by. Also, God gives me strength is one that I picked up after the first time I was on. You know, any time that I was going through a difficult time in my life, or even doing a difficult lift, I would just whisper to myself, God gives me strength, and it would get me through that tough time.
What's your favorite Bible verse?
Oh, favorite Bible verse. You know, I'm not sure I have one.
Favorite book of the Bible?
Favorite book of the Bible. Genesis, most certainly. Just the idea of creation, of something new, just from pure love, or the desire to love, is something that I think is really beautiful. And Genesis exemplifies that a lot.
Looking at all the different characters in the Bible, is there any that you think about that you sort of try to emulate yourself after?
Oh, let's see. David, in the age-old story, David and Goliath. You know, he started off as the little guy, but then he ended up standing up for his country, and he ended up standing up for his people. And, you know, I think that's sort of how I, you know, started off. I started off as, you know, a lot of potential, you know, but I didn't quite have it yet. And, you know, through the support of my family members and friends and coaches and teammates, I became something bigger.
Favorite saying? You said that to me in your profile, and last time you talked about the process. What is the process?
The process is everything. You know, a lot of people like to focus on the competition, and a lot of people like to focus on the results, whereas the process is everything else. It's the sleeping, it's the diet, it's the working out, you know, it's the mental fitness, that sort of thing. And so trusting the process and loving the process, loving every moment of that grit is something that you have to find. And I think I found that eventually.
A lot of young people watch the show, and they have dreams like you had about becoming a exceptional high school student athlete and then going on to college. So they're watching you here this week. What are you going to tell them?
I'm going to tell them to trust the process. I'm going to tell them, listen, you're going to come up to some tough times as a student athlete, in life in general, and if you trust the process, trust that you're going to make it through. If you work hard, you're going to make it.
How about from the standpoint of nutrition and mental toughness? Talk about those two things.
Well, there are a lot of mental exercises that you can do. Like I said, I had sort of a competition zone that I like to put myself in terms of dieting and nutrition, just eating healthy foods, making good choices, you know, and hydrating, going to sleep. Doing all of those things outside of practice and outside of competition are going to make you a better athlete.
Some parents and authors and so on commentators talk about this being a difficult time, certainly with the virus and so on, and it leads perhaps to more of a sedentary lifestyle, leads to kids, young people not being as active, maybe losing that spirit, losing that competitive nature. Advice?
Yeah. Put your nose to the grindstone and just move at 100 miles an hour, because if you work hard, you're going to get through this, and you are going to surprise everyone when the quarantine lifts.
The authors talk about the characteristics of being a world-class elite athlete, or just an exceptional high school, college athlete. Talk about attitude and desire and going the extra mile. It talks about in the Bible going the extra mile where others just quit, and those that make it take that extra step or so. Handling pressures, setbacks, work habits. A lot of people feel that work habits has eroded through the years.
And maybe it has, but I think one thing that high school sports and college sports do a really good job at is creating a strong sense of work ethic, in young people, and it certainly did that for me.
If you were going to look at these qualities, attitude, desire, coachability, things I talked about, handling pressure, setbacks, so on, give me a couple of those that would be your strengths that you build on, that you're known for, that your teammates said, that guy has these special qualities. What would that be?
Honestly, it would be, loving my teammates and loving the experiences that I share with them. Because, yeah, I was a very successful college athlete, but my motivation in the beginning was for myself. I wanted to do these things for myself. I wanted to accomplish great things. But then towards the end of my career, I wanted to do these things for my teammates, for UW-La. I think it's very poetic, because a lot of the people on the team have that same mentality.
Yeah. Do you know, the first time you were on, I said, there's a special guy, and now, second time on Seven Rivers Sports, I think you would all agree there's a special young man. So our guest today, Andrew Jarrett, graduating in 2 days. From today, we taped the show on Wednesday, graduating on Friday. And we wish you the best, and there's no question that you will be a success. Andrew Jarrett, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Mr. Erickson, for having me.
All right. We'll be back with some closing thoughts right after this.
The thing I'm most proud of when I think about our company is the reputation that we've been able to build in this community. Our technicians have done a great job going out and performing magnificent jobs for the customer. And our customers have rewarded us with some really great reviews online.
We have over 150 5-star reviews online right now. Our technicians do a great job out there, and our reviews show it.
We can say without hesitation, when you choose Schneider Heating and Air Conditioning, you'll be glad you did.
When you're faced with the decision of selecting a monument to honor someone dear to you, call Lewiston Monuments for a no-obligation consultation. Lewiston Monument is a full-service monument company, serving families in Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin for over 4 generations. You'll find beautiful granite, marble, and bronze memorials, all at competitive prices. Their experts can help you design the perfect and unique memorial. Lewiston Monument. Call today or on the web at lewistonmonument.com.
I hope you enjoyed this week's show with Andrew Jarrett. Next week, you have a chance to meet Abby Cavadini, a senior at West Salem High School, set to graduate here in a few days. You'll be impressed with her story. That's it this week here on Seven Rivers Sports. I'm your host, Terry Erickson, hoping that you will stay safe and healthy, and like me, looking forward to getting your life back in the weeks and months ahead.